Hi, welcome to another episode on the composition of my piano quintet. Last week I showed you the composition of the final measures of the third movement. Now we move on to the fourth, but before I continue, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Starting a new piece can be a bit difficult. Sometimes I have a clear idea of what I want to do, but other times I don't know where to start. In the case of this movement, I have always known the type of character I want for the music. At times, I wanted to be calm and serene. At other times, I wanted to appear dark and heavy. Of course, all of this may vary as I write the piece, but at least I know what I wanted to express. Yes, express. I believe that music is a form of expression, and that it expresses something, whatever it is. Others may disagree with me on this, but I don't care. It's what I believe, and I stand firm in it. So, how do I start this new movement? Sometimes all I need is a basic idea, but I couldn't think of one last week. I needed a starting point, but what could it be? Then it occurred to me. The title is Canzone, which means song in Italian. The title is of course allegorical. I don't intend to write a real song. However, songs have lyrics, and although this song will never be sung, nothing prevents me from having lyrics for it. So I thought, what I need is a text. The answer to this dilemma came to me immediately: a poem. Unfortunately, I had solved one problem only to create another, because now I had to find a poem. However, Peruvians are very used, I would say almost conditioned, to think of a very particular author when we look for poems. A name always rings in our heads: César Vallejo. And I happen to have a book with all his poems in my personal library. So I went through it carefully, trying to find something inspiring, especially a poem with a song-like structure, and I found it. It's called The Voice in the Mirror, and here's a rough translation. I'll put it in the description if you want to read it. You can see that there are 3 paragraphs that begin with "So life passes," which could be like the chorus of the song. The other 2 would then be the verses. This is not the first time I've written music inspired by a poem. When I do, I usually type the text in a table and look up its structure, which is pretty easy in this case. In the last column, I wrote a few keywords for each line. In no way am I trying to write a melody that fits the words. The purpose of all this is to give me ideas of what to do with the music. I could come up with those ideas myself, without needing a poem, but believe it or not, that's more difficult. Also, I don't pretend that the audience will listen to the music and imagine the poem, or even find the relationship between the two if they read the last one beforehand. The poem is just a way to have a source of ideas. Now, you might be wondering how exactly I turn the words of the poem into music. The answer to that question is that I simply make a mental connection between the words and some kind of musical idea. This connection is of course completely arbitrary. Again, it's not that I'm pretending to do some kind of universal translation of the poem into music. It's something very personal, and no one but me needs to see any relationship between the two. Consider, for example, the second line. The key words here are blue, rose, and illuminates. You may not know it, but I have synesthesia, which in my case makes me see the notes in a sheet music in colors, and also the keys on a piano, and the color blue is for me the note A, although sometimes I see it purple too. So I can choose to start with the note A, and this is what I decide to do. The word rose, on the other hand, suggests to me something that blooms, that opens. Can I do that with music? Well, I could, for example, start all instruments on the note A, and from there progressively open them to form a chord. Then we also have the word illuminate, which suggests a high register to me. This, together with the word mirage from the first line, gave me an idea for the piano. A mirage is something that appears to be something that it's not. So the piano imitates the strings. I could have written a strict imitation, but I decide not to, because it has to be a mirage, and I need to incorporate the high register of the instrument to make it illuminate. So you see how this works. Now all I have to do is follow the words of the poem and come up with musical ideas inspired by them, no matter how arbitrary they are. Of course, I need to focus on the musical development itself as well. The flow of ideas needs to be consistent, and I need to keep the music interesting at all times. You can see me struggling to write something that convinces me. I keep writing and rewriting, doing and undoing. This is completely normal. I go to bed without having achieved a result that I like, and the next morning I decide to try something different. I feel like some kind of war machine trying to break down a wall, constantly ramming it. One of the problems is the instrumentation itself. Many of my ideas could work perfectly well in an orchestra, but I don't have any. I need to write something that suits the instruments I have, something that sounds almost natural on them. I won't show you the whole process. It would be too long, and I have nothing more to say about it that is interesting. Instead, I'll just play back the result for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a nice weekend. Ciao.